Once again, thank you for being here. And we have talked recently on these programs about volunteers for youth, volunteers for seniors. Now we're going to talk about Nevada volunteers. I thought they were all the same, but I guess they're not. We're going to find out about that. The CEO is with us today of a program called simply Nevada Volunteers, and that is Shawn Lecker-Pomaville, right? Pomaville?
Correct.
Shawn Lecker-Pomaville. Shawn, nice to have you on our program.
Thanks for having me on. I'm delighted to be here.
I didn't realize there was just an organization called Nevada Volunteers. I thought that would encompass everything else that's going on in our state. Tell us about Nevada Volunteers.
It does encompass a lot, Bob. It's the Governor's Commission on National and Community Service and volunteering. So the mission is to strengthen the state of Nevada through AmeriCorps and through volunteering. We do that. AmeriCorps is our flagship program, and you may have heard of AmeriCorps.
Sure,
It's often likened to the Domestic Peace Corps. So the commission, Nevada Volunteers, is set up to receive the funding from Congress for AmeriCorps. And that's our flagship program. AmeriCorps is that program that rewards citizens for committing a year of their lives to service with a small stipend and a higher education award. And then along with that flagship award, we try to strengthen the volunteer sector in general. And we have several volunteer initiatives going all at once to do that. Our largest one is the Governor's Points of Light Award, which recognizes outstanding Nevadans for their volunteering.
So when you're talking about Nevada Volunteers, you're talking about the entire state of Nevada? In other words, you have volunteers in Las Vegas and Ely and Elko and Tonopah and the whole thing. Now, that's very interesting. How long has this program been in existence?
Well, the commission has been in existence since 1994, and it outreached to the larger volunteer sector in this formal way starting in 2007.
Now, are people required to spend a year in the program?
In AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is a little bit different than your traditional volunteering. In AmeriCorps, you're required to commit for 1 year. And then regular volunteering, what we do on a statewide basis, for example, the governor has allowed for a online volunteer matching system. So people here in the Reno area can put in their zip code. Anybody in rural Nevada, anybody in northern Nevada can put in their zip code where they would like to volunteer, and a list of volunteer opportunities will show up and events that people can get involved in.
You know, Shawn, as we've been talking about volunteerism with these other groups, it's very apparent to me that some of these groups would not even be in business if they didn't have volunteers. I mean, that in this crazy economy that we're in right now, that's what's making a lot of these organizations go today. Where do you send your into what kind of schools to do in-classroom things, hospitals?
Volunteers are everywhere that there's a need. So wherever it might be, we really encourage nonprofits, cities, counties to post their needs for volunteers on the website so anybody can find that opportunity for themselves. We don't actually send them, they go once they're hooked up automatically through the online service. And then with an AmeriCorps member whom we actually benefit and sponsor, the AmeriCorps program members serve in this region here in Washoe County at the Children's Cabinet. So they work with youth in all kinds of different situations, at-risk youth, anything from adjudicated youth to youth who are homeless to youth who are just needing guidance and mentoring. They also, AmeriCorps members serve up in Incline Village and all around the Nevada side of Tahoe, and they do a whole spectrum of human services from delivering food to checking in on seniors to tutoring and mentoring. And then we have the other AmeriCorps program is the Great Basin Institute Nevada Conservation Corps. They are statewide on our public lands. For example, they removed 350 acres of forest fire fuel last year. So they go out into the deserts and out into the forests and they remove those hazardous fuel fires that are so, you know, touchy around here. They do a tremendous amount.
To work with their hands, obviously.
Obviously, they do that.
In the middle of it. Now, on the AmeriCorps side, are they paid something?
Yes, they get a living stipend, which is an allowance that roughly comes out to about $1,000 a month to serve and volunteer full-time. And you can only do it twice. You can only earn that award, education award, twice because it's an opportunity for all Nevadans to serve. So we want to give more Nevadans that opportunity. And then just recently Congress worked it to, it's called the Serve America Act. If you're 55 or older, and you don't need the education award for your own higher ed, you can bequeath it to a child, a grandchild, or a foster child.
That's interesting, sure. So what kind of an educational benefit would you get? In other words, is it a payment type of thing to continue with college or take classes?
It's put in a trust, and when you enroll in a college, any college that's eligible for a Pell Grant, for example, UNR can use the funds. Other technical schools, they can use them for when the AmeriCorps member, we call them an alumni after they serve. When an alumni serves, they pull down, they notify the College of Higher Ed of what the benefit is, and then they go to the trust and authorize the use of it.
When I said earlier that you do have volunteers, I would assume in every community here in the state of Nevada. Is that true?
Yes.
Tonopah, who's volunteering and what are they volunteering for in a town like Tonopah?
Well, that one you took me a little off guard on, Bob, but I'm sure there are volunteers. I'm sure if you went down there, you'd see them in the school districts, you'd see them in the senior corps kinds of work, you'd see them working in the hospital in whatever way that they can. They'll volunteer. So those are existing volunteer structures that we're trying to strengthen. And the way we strengthen those, we did a year-long series of getting public input, and what's needed are volunteer managers, because if you don't give that volunteer a good experience, they're not going to come back.
Right.
And the face of volunteering is changing. So contrary to the common myth that volunteers are free, they aren't. And they aren't a panacea for everything, even the economy. So yes, they can help in the economy. A volunteer can actually stay networked in the economy, or someone who's unemployed can now have the opportunity to volunteer and stay in a network, get professional contacts, that sort of thing. What we do is volunteer lunch and learns at the Nevada Volunteer Office, where you can come for lunch and learn a little bit about how to register a volunteer, how to write a job description for a volunteer, what to do with them when they show up and say, hey, I'm ready to volunteer. We do different things like that. In September was the 9/11 Day of Service and Remembrance. And the governor came out and he helped us kicked off a petition to get more people to volunteer. And he committed to 40 hours of volunteering in the coming year. And since that petition drive started, we have 1,000 more people volunteering, committing to 38,000 hours in the state. So I'd highly recommend that people go to our website and sign up to commit to volunteer. Lots of people are committing to volunteer. And then you go from there and do your volunteering and you report it. And it goes on and on and on. And yes, you're right, people would absolutely not be able to survive without volunteering.
I would imagine you get some high-profile people, maybe doctors who have retired from their practice, university professors, those types of people that are volunteering these days?
More and more. It's called skills-based volunteering, and as we're aging in the population and retiring younger, we have more people with the ability to give more of their time. And so they might have a skill. We had someone come in and build us a complete database at Nevada Volunteers, purely volunteering. And so yes, that's skills-based volunteering.
Money, didn't it? Yeah,
well, yeah, sure. Yeah. Money we didn't have, tasks that would not get done otherwise.
What, can you think of maybe one of the most unusual requests you've ever had for a volunteer since you've been there?
Unusual request for a volunteer.
Let's see, it's got to be out in Ely, White Pine County. They have a great or they did have a great train service. I'm not sure it's still running. Maybe it's a conductor or something, volunteer conductor in Ely.
Yeah,
is that you could probably fill that, couldn't you?
We could help them find somebody. We could help them find somebody. But so we can search for those zip codes and look. We also had people requesting volunteers for Burning Man. They're not difficult to find, but that's probably an unusual request. And we hand that one off to whoever is organizing Burning Man.
Well, when people get online, and all right, tell us first of all how they get online to reach your organization.
They type in www.nevadavolunteers.org.
Okay, now they're online. Are they talking to anybody in your office, or are you putting them in touch with that person in Lovelock that needs that volunteer?
They register. They go online, it'll ask them a few questions about, are you looking to volunteer or are you looking for volunteers? And that takes you to 2 separate areas of the website. And then you put in what it is that you want, that, you know, I'm calling volunteers in Lovelock or Ely, or, you know, someone to work with hospice in Moapa or someplace. And you wait and see if someone doesn't go on with that zip code or that type. So when you come in to volunteer, and let's say you put in your zip code, Bob, and you type in 89509, all the volunteer opportunities will come up in areas. So health related, school related, senior related, group related, family volunteering, and those opportunities will pop up.
Shawn, how do you make sure that there isn't somebody sitting out there, and I keep using these out of the way places. This isn't out of the way, but oh, I don't know, in Yerington or something, and he's got a garage, okay, and he says to himself, wait a minute, I can let 2 of my employees go and I'm going to get 2 volunteers from this great Nevada organization and continue to run my garage and make more money. How do you screen that?
We do have a screening process. It has to be a charitable organization, a 501c3 or a government. Churches are eligible. Yeah, but it can't be anybody who's a private citizen or a business looking to replace employees.
And you do screen that pretty
We do screen that, yes. They fill out a questionnaire and format and make statements.
How many volunteers, did we go over that? How many do you have at the present time between the 2 programs here in the state of Nevada?
Well, that's an interesting question because it could be a really big number, but I'll start out by telling you there's about 310 AmeriCorps members. Last year, they recruited 7,000 other AmeriCorps.
Wow. Here in the state of Nevada?
Here in the state of Nevada. And from that volunteer initiative that we kicked off in September, there's over 1,000. So that's 2,300, 2,500 volunteers. They save the state millions of dollars, or the counties, or they provide services that government would most likely be asked to do. They'd fall back on the government, and we all know where those cuts are right now. So volunteers are taking up a tremendous amount of slack and plugging a lot of holes.
Has your budget been cut by the federal government over the last couple of years?
No, no.
That's a positive.
It is. It's a remarkable positive. Well, I shouldn't say no. It took a 6% cut last year. It's been slated for elimination twice by the House of Representatives, so we really need our House of Representatives to know what volunteering is doing in the state of Nevada, in the districts where they vote.
Do they know that?
We've been telling them that.
Okay. And well, I think with the governor on board, as apparently he is, that's got to be a tremendous political ally for you.
Oh, it's tremendous. We had the governor just last Thursday at the Governor's Points of Light Awards, and that, I said, is the annual recognition of outstanding Nevadans. It's a statewide event. Several northern Nevadans were recognized, and the governor was present, and he gave a very encouraging speech about the benefits of volunteering. And as I said before, he committed to 40 hours of volunteering himself.
And if nothing else, it just makes you feel good to volunteer sometimes. It really does.
Right. Yeah. Intuitively, we've always known that, but now there's studies that show if you volunteer, you're going to have a healthier heart and you're going to live a longer,
particularly if you're a little bit older, someplace to go, a reason for getting up in the morning. Kind of like I do here at the old city of Reno. Sharon won't pay me those big bucks that she really needs to, but I keep asking, but nobody wants to do that. Shawn, thank you very much. An excellent program. Glad to know that we have so many volunteers that are fulfilling so many important jobs here in the state of Nevada.
Great, Bob. Thank you for having me.
And our thanks to you. We'll see you next time.